Hey everybody, this is Rosie and welcome to my studio where we can explore creativity together. Today I'd like to show you how I make a stacked pocket page. So let's get started. So here's an example of a stacked pocket page that I made quite a while ago. You can see I can put cards in there or pictures, whatever. And here's another album that I designed, I don't know, whenever this paper came out. This is the Safari Graphic 45 paper that came out a little while ago. It has a nice area there for just putting pictures. I open up the page and then there is a pocket over here on the left side where I can store pictures or whatever. In the middle section there's some fold outs, plenty of room for pictures there, and then you can slide something underneath also. On this side here I have a pocket that you can slip in from the side. You can slip something in from the side here. And then another large area for photos. And then here I have another stacked pocket. And with the stacked pockets you can just slip in your photos or whatever. They actually go all the way down to the bottom. So it's the top one will go down the full length of the page. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how I made the page in the book that I just showed you. Now, the finished page is 8 inches by 8 inches. So to get started, I have a piece of paper here. It's 7.5 inches high by 9 inches wide. I've scored it at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. And I've marked a line 4 inches up from the bottom. So this is the line right here. It's marked 4 inches up from the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a slit right here on this line. But before we do, we want to take some packing tape and put it centered over where that slit is. Now, we're not going to be cutting into the margins here where we made the score lines. We're only going to be cutting in between the score lines. The tape only needs to go in between the score lines. If it goes over, no big deal. So I marked that at 4 inches, so 1, 2, 3, 4. The line is about right there. So I'm going to take out a piece of packing tape. And I'm just going to place it approximately where that line would be. So the center of my line should be somewhere in the middle of my packing tape right now. What this is going to do is when we make that cut, it's going to make this area in here very sturdy because you're going to be slipping pictures and other things in and out of that little pocket. So that will make it nice and strong. Now I have a ruler here. It's just one of those little metal rulers. It has a nice edge on it and it has cork on the bottom, so it helps to keep it still while I'm cutting. So I'm just going to turn this around and line up the edge on the line. And I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to start at the score line, go across, I think that's all the way through, and then I'm going to move down my ruler, and now I'm only going to cut right up to that score line, so I'm going to stop right there. Careful you don't slip and go off the edge. So this is what it should look like now on both sides. And I didn't get a good cut because my blade is very dull. But if you have a nice sharp blade, that'll go through like butter. And you can see that I did not cut past the score line on both sides. Okay? Okay, next step, I'm going to take my envelope punch board because I want to make a tab at the top. So let's go in, say, 2.5 inches on this side. And then we'll go in 2.5 inches on this side. And I'm just going to trim away the ends here, and then I'll just have this tab in the middle. And now here's the piece with the ends trimmed away, leaving just the tab in the middle. So now what I have to do is I need to make a base page for this to sit on. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started now. I have some pieces cut here just to make a basic base page. So to fit my stacked pocket page, I need a finished size of 8 by 8. So I have this piece here that's 9 inches wide by 8 inches high, and I scored on the width side, a 1/2 inch on each side. And then the other piece is just 8 by 8. And I'd like to show you how I use my score tape and how I actually put these pieces together so that they line up perfectly. So we'll be putting the score tape on this piece here. And the way I do it is I hold my score tape like this. And I turn my piece and I put down the score tape on the edge. And I can roll it because it's on my hands. It just rolls easily. And then I take that steel ruler, that same one, and because it has a nice edge on it, I can just cut it right off. And the score tape never leaves my hand. It's still on my hand. And then I turn around and I pull it off, put it down, stretch it across. Score tape is still in my hand. It has not left my hand. I take that ruler again, and there you go. It's very easy if you hold it this way in your hand. And my thumb is, so it's in my hand, my 4 fingers are through the middle of the score tape, but my thumb is holding here, and as I pull out, it kind of controls the score tape as it's rolling off. Now, to put these two pieces together, the other trick I have is I take my other piece, the one that I'm gluing to. First thing I do is I take off just a tiny piece of release tape, just a little bit. And then I put these two pieces together. And I match them up evenly. And I hold them together with a clip. These clips are sewing clips, and they're made by Clover. And they work really well. If you don't have those, the Tim Holtz ones, they will also work. So sometimes I use those, whatever is easily in my grasp. I turn it over. I make sure that everything looks even, and it does. And then I start to pull out this tape. And as I go along, I just secure it down, and everything stays lined up really well. And then I do the same thing on the other side, although now on the other side it's going to be a little bit easier because this side is already secure. But again, I just pull out a little piece of the release tape and I put the pieces together, and I still use my clips just to hold everything nice and snug and secure in there. And then I just check and make sure that everything looks good, lined up, laying flat. And then again, I just take out my release tape and I go along and I snug it down. And then I have a piece that's very nicely lined up. All the edges are even. Nothing is sticking out. Looks good. Okay, now we're going to get ready to put the stacked pocket piece on top of here. This is just a basic base page. So now to prepare this piece for putting onto the base page, I'm just going to cut off the corners, angle them in. So I'm not cutting, I'm only cutting here. I'm not going past these score lines over here. So I kind of make a little X going right through the center where those two lines cross each other. Okay, now I turn down my score lines. Actually, I put my score tape on before I trim down those corners, but that's okay. It's not going to make a big deal of difference. So I got my score tape on, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm just going to pull out just a tiny piece of release tape. And then I have my base page right here. And I'm going to place the base page on, I'm going to place the stacked pocket page on top of the base plate. And I'm going to hold it in place with the clips. Make sure all the edges are very nicely lined up. And I'll put a couple on this side too. And some over here. This way I can make sure that everything is really lined up. Okay, then I take a look at it. Looks good on that side. Looks good on that side. So now I just start taking out that release tape. Okay, now that that side is done, I will work on this side over here. Of course, you'll burnish everything down well. One thing I really like about this method is that when I stack my pockets, everything is perfectly lined up. I don't have crooked pockets. I have trouble placing things perfectly in line. So here, because all I did was make a slit, there's nothing to go off. So everything stays nice and lined up. The other thing is, if you look at the edges here, there's really not a lot of bulk. I don't have, you know, a pocket, a pocket, a pocket all stacked up with a lot of bulk there. So it's nice and trim. And the other thing I like is that both pockets go all the way to the bottom. So now off camera I just matted the bottom section of the pocket here, and now I'm just slipping a piece of cardstock behind the pockets to do a little bit of matting there. I'm just lining it up, and then I will take off my release paper and stick it down. So the other thing that I like about this method is that I get to use up my chipboard tags. So what I'm going to do is I have a tag right here, and I put some score tape on the back. I'm just going to take it off. And I peel off the release paper, and I put it down on a piece of cardstock. And now I cut across. Now I'm just going to cut around it. I'm not going to be real perfect here. Obviously I take a lot more time to do this when I'm working on a real project. This is just for demonstration. Okay, so what I have now is the chipboard tag with cardstock on the back, and I'm going to place a piece of score tape on each side. So I'll put a piece of score tape here and a piece of score tape here, and then what I'm going to do is slip it in between the pocket. Okay, so let's see, it's going to go in between the pocket, and then I'll secure it down with the score tape. So I have the score tape on both sides, and what I'm going to do is just take the release paper off of the back where the cardstock is, and then I'm just going to kind of slip it in here and figure out where I think it looks nice. Kind of center it up and press that down, and then I'm going to take the release paper off of the front piece and secure that one down. So there you go. So now, because this is here, it helps you to put your photographs in very easily. Well, that's what I have for you today, and I hope that you enjoyed it and that it was helpful to you. Have a great day and see you next time. Please like and subscribe.